is Greece and the European Union handling the refugees crisis, and what more should be done for the refugees or for the immigrants?
Okay, to start by saying that the percentage of refugees arriving in Europe compared to the forced displaced persons all over the world is very, very low. Europe without Turkey hosts now approximately 2 million refugees, asylum seekers and refugees, while the total population of forcibly displaced persons in the world in 2015 amounts to 65 million persons. So, to start with, numbers in Europe are low compared to the burden and the responsibility of states that are adjacent and neighboring the conflict areas, which bear the highest number and receive the highest number of refugees. So it is a manageable number of refugees by Europe and by the European states. The issue is how the European Union will adapt its policies, its systems, its mechanisms to address this newly arriving population, which, no matter if the numbers are low, are high compared to the numbers that were arriving in Europe in the last years. And there needs to be a response towards solidarity, to the direction of solidarity, to the direction of the responsibility sharing. And in this context and in this thinking, each member state has its own responsibilities. Hungary has its own responsibilities, Greece has its own responsibilities, and Germany and France have their own responsibilities. So everybody needs to do its part.
Is Greece doing its part?
And this is exactly the issue, that what is requested by our country is to do its part, which includes a part of enhancing the asylum procedures. So these administrative procedures that will determine the status of the persons in Europe and will boost and will promote and facilitate and accelerate their relocation to the other EU member states. So this is one part of the part of Greece, and the second part of Greece has to do with reinforcing its reception capacity, in particular improving the reception conditions for these refugees. Greece has done a lot in the context of an emergency response. It has identified camps and sites which are not for long-term residents. So now that as we speak, asylum seekers and refugees are residing in camps and sites, some of them being not acceptable as regards the material conditions under which these refugees live. So it is extremely necessary and important that the state elaborates and implements a plan, first of all, of winterization, and this is in the process of being made with the assistance of international organizations and funds coming from the European Union, winterization of the existing camps, and then a plan immediately afterwards for the transfer of the people from the camps to apartments, to centers, reception centers, get them in the urban setting, at least those that are not eligible for relocation. So there is no expectation for the moment that they will be moving to other EU member states. And for those, especially the other part, the other population, who will be here and will be examined by as per the refugee status by the Greek Asylum Service. So they will stay in Greece.
How many thousand do you believe that they will eventually stay in Greece?
You probably already know that in summer 2016, the Greek Asylum Service, with the assistance of UNHCR and the ASO, have gone through a pre-registration of asylum seekers in mainland.
Yes.
This number, according to the number that were pre-registered, we are estimating that those persons that would be from nationalities eligible for relocation, meaning Syrians and Iraqis before the beginning of the pre-registration, is approximately 19,000. So 19,000 persons are in principle eligible for relocation. This creates a two-side responsibility. First, from the EU member state to observe their commitment to open pledges for relocation, and from the Greek side to be ready to process for relocation once as the pledges will be gradually opening. So this is a process that needs to the member states and Greece has to go hand in hand in order to get people quickly to the country where their asylum application will be examined, and not staying here prolonged, etc., etc.
So we have the implementation of the EU-Turkey agreement. Are many people going from Greece back to Turkey? Is that agreement working in that regard?
So far, the number of those who have returned back to Turkey is approximately 550 to 600. So far, as per the initial aim and target of the agreement, the expectation was that there will be more returns, and that the process of the examination of the asylum applications as admissible or inadmissible, taking the presumption that Turkey is a safe third country, would be far more accelerated. This is not happening, and this is not happening because the presumption that Turkey is a safe third country is for the moment applied only to Syrian refugees, based on the fact that the treatment of Syrians in Turkey has some characteristics that allow for the guarantees that are necessary for a state to return back an asylum seeker without examining the substance of his or her claim in EU, in Greece, while this is not the case for other nationalities. So the presumption of safety of Turkey, for the moment, it is applied only for Syrians. So we have a restricted number of nationalities where the return could be at the end conducted. Another issue is that from the border procedures, according to the Greek law, the vulnerable individuals, as well as those who are eligible for family reunification under the Dublin regulation, so those who have family members in other EU member states, are exempted from these procedures. So they are exempted de facto from the returns. So we have ended up with a large population stranded on the islands, because all these having become asylum seekers, so they have applied for asylum and they are waiting for the examination of their claims. Every day, few and more and more, not large numbers, but low numbers are still coming. So all these people having a decision of a restriction of freedom of movement on the island, they cannot go to the mainland to have their asylum applications examined, but they are on the island with the purpose of being returned, are creating, it is created a situation that will become extremely difficult for the islands. So we see the population again gradually increasing, and there is no they are not going back or allowed to come to the mainland. Yes. So it's legally very heavy. There is pending at the Council of State a case that will set a precedent as regards to what extent the presumption of the safety of Turkey have inadmissible decisions for Syrians at the first instance by the Asylum Service that are overturned at the appeal stage. So even those who are declared inadmissible and could be returned as per the EU-Turkey agreement. They are not, because they are appealing the inadmissibility decisions, and at the second stage, at the second appeal, at the second instance, they are declared admissible. So the first instance decision is overturned, and they are directed to the Greek asylum system. So it shows that legally it's very heavy, the implementation of the agreement. It is very heavy, and it doesn't so far give the results that were expected to be given. UNHCR has in principle been is supporting arrangements between states which have as an ultimate goal, as an ultimate aim, to reduce the secondary movements. UNHCR is of the position that refugees should be protected where they are in the first place. So assist the states, the receiving states, the host states, to do whatever is possible to protect them where they are. This is why UNHCR has supported the temporary protection status granted in Turkey to Syrians. That was a big progress, because before that there was no protection with the geographic
camps that are very, very good for Syrians in schools.
Yes. So in principle, UNHCR is supporting these arrangements. In particular for the EU-Turkey agreement, we have expressed our concerns as regards the hastiness and the speediness in which this has been started to be implemented, and the developments give justice to UNHCR in the sense that the guarantees were not in place for all nationalities on the part of Turkey in order to consider the admissibility procedures, and on the part of Greece, the capacity of the asylum system was not yet again in place in order to process the asylum application, that high numbers of asylum application. So we end up, in fact, with people stranded on the Greek islands and not going back, not going forward. So this is something that was foreseen at the moment of the initiation of the implementation of the EU-Turkey agreement statement, and it was that moment that UNHCR has said that the guarantees should be in place before any agreement starts to be implemented. So this is more or less the scope under which we work under.